We're talking with Tim Butler, of the president of the Illinois Railroad Association and a former state representative and former top aide. Let's see here, the credits go. Congressman Shimkus, Rodney Davis, Bob Michael,
Ray LaHood,
Ray LaHood, Bob Michael, some real titans of Congress. Quite a career, and moving into the railroad sector. How have you enjoyed your duties over there over the past 3+ years?
You know, this has been a great transition for me. The railroad industry has really I've enjoyed getting involved with it. Working for members of Congress, working in the General Assembly, I always did a lot of work around the transportation space, and this really gave me an opportunity to go full bore into transportation issues, and I haven't looked back. It's a wonderful industry. Illinois is the most important railroad state in the nation, and the companies that run the railroads in our nation do a great job, and a lot of them. Everybody's obviously familiar with railroads. Everybody sees them. Everybody has a love affair with the history of railroads, but a lot of people don't necessarily understand what it goes in day to day to run a railroad. And it's been great to see this and be involved in it. And I love the job. It's a great gig.
I know for a lot of people, their perspective of the railroad is, I'm going down Union and Litchfield. I hope the train isn't there. But the train, it's not just about the railroad and the railroad employees in the area, but I have to think so many aspects of the economy in these parts, Montgomery and Macoupin County and mining and everything else, that the existence and survival and thriving of railroads in 2026, I think certainly doing better than people might have predicted 50 years ago, has everything to do with the successful parts of the economy down here.
Well, and I think, what people often don't understand is how competitive it is to ship by rail. If you're gonna long haul a manufacturing item, if you're gonna long haul coal or aggregate or lumber or grain, we are a tremendously competitive way to haul your product. And when businesses look at their bottom line and they see how much it costs to truck it versus how much it is to go by rail, rail is really, really competitive. So that really helps us, certainly make a difference to our customers. And we have a wide variety of customers. And so when businesses are looking to locate, especially, in downstate Illinois, when you're looking at a new manufacturing plant, for a lot of the communities, that's a huge deal, 100, 200,000 jobs. Having rail access is really important to be able to move whatever may be produced at that facility. So oftentimes, when economic development people or businesses are looking at a community, they're reaching out to the railroads to say, hey, what kind of access do we have here? How do we get onto your tracks? How can we get a spur and things like that? So we're a vital part of not just moving the goods of the nation, but creating that underlying economy that creates jobs through manufacturing and agriculture and all sorts of things. And so, that's just kind of one aspect, the economic development aspect of it. But there's so many aspects where we're involved in the economy, and really, railroads. Warren Buffett has mentioned this. Railroads are a harbinger of the economy, and when railroads are doing well, it means the economy is probably going to be doing well as well.
Well, and the trucking industry is certainly one that so many people not shopping and everything else. It is certainly an industry that you don't have to go far to see the thick presence of it. And we're building new rest stops, bigger rest stops, because of incidents like the I guess the bus crash Highland, the Greyhound bus, and the rest stop was overloaded. So that's certainly a concern. The thought of if the railroads weren't so successful, you'd have more trucks on the highway, and I don't know what kind of rest stop you'd be able to create for that. It also, I have to think, is a safety issue, a benefit there. And also, boy, if you take those trains away, you take them from the rails to the interstate, those roads wear out a little faster.
Yeah, you hit on a lot of good points there, Sean, and I think the first thing I'll say is that we can't survive as an industry in railroads without trucking. I mean, they are our partners on a wide variety of things, and it's the same thing for them. I mean, they do great work on first mile, last mile type of things, and so we work closely with them, but we're also competitors with them as well. But I think you had some great points there. Investment in the infrastructure, whereas whether it's trucking, whether it's barges, whether it's air freight, those forms of transportation all rely upon government-funded transportation systems. The interstate system is paid for by federal and state governments. The river system of this country is managed by the federal government. Airports are managed by governments, and the dollars that go into that are federal and state dollars. So, those are all government propped up transportation systems, and we've made those decisions as a country over a long time, and all for good reason. The railroad industry is completely different. We are a privately funded, privately maintained, private transportation system. Our 6 largest railroads in the United States, what are called the Class 1s, they invest over $25 billion annually back into their infrastructure to make sure that they have the infrastructure to move the goods of the nation. And that's not taxpayer dollars. There are some projects where we collaborate with local entities, like here in Springfield when we have this big rail project that's been going on for over a decade. That was a community initiative to come forward to create to combine the 2 rail corridors in the city. But that was something that came forward from the city that they wanted to do, and so that's why there's some government money in it. But outside of that, our members use their own dollars to maintain the transportation system and do not rely upon government funding. I think the other aspect of it is that so much, what you hit on earlier, so much of the economy moves through our state, and so when people are stopped at the railroad tracks, might be frustrated, and they look at those big boxes, which are called intermodal, carriers, which you might see going on the back of trucks as well. Those intermodal containers are hauling the stuff that's getting delivered to your front door. It's the packages that you're ordering. It's the TVs that you want to buy, and everything like that. And so, in Illinois, over half of all the intermodal containers that go across the country come through Illinois, and a quarter of every single rail car in the country comes through Illinois. So, again, to my original point, Illinois is the most important railroad state in the nation, and it helps deliver the goods, and the people of Illinois help with that. But we also help prop up the economy of the state of Illinois.
Well, the other thing that sticks out to me, talking about railroads and the benefits, we've had all of these conversations about weather getting more intense, severe, and you turn on the network news, 120 million people are under the gun of a severe weather system or a giant storm dumping ice on roadways for hundreds of miles. And the railroad's not 100% weatherproof. You have to worry about trucks being flooded out, and I know heat can do certain things to the rails and so on in extreme situations, but doggone, trains are about as weatherproof as it gets, and I know there are sectors of the economy that absolutely have to have that kind of consistency. They can't hear, the the airline or the cargo airline, well, if you use the term airline, but the cargo flights are off limits right now. It's got to be a game changer.
Yeah, rail is tremendously resilient and reliable. We don't, we have to deal with weather just like other forms do, but certainly, again, we have the ability to manage our own stuff and move on our own time in a way. But that doesn't mean we don't have trees that fall down over our tracks that need to be moved, or floods that impact areas that we run our trains and everything. But I'll tell you what, the difference between railroads and the difference between government-funded transportation systems are the fact that if a railroad bridge washes out because of a flood, this happened in Arkansas last year or 2 years ago. BNSF replaced the bridge in Arkansas that had gotten washed out in 5 days. In 5 days, they completely rebuilt that bridge and had their trains running again. If we had to rely upon government to do that, you'd be lucky to get that done in 5 months. And that's the difference that we can bring our own resources to bear to repair our property. The other thing that I think is important in this whole question is railroads are far and away the most fuel efficient and greenest, to use the term, greenest way to ship over land. We can move a ton of freight 500 miles on a single gallon of fuel. And it's because of the physics that go into steel wheels on steel rails. And we emit far less, greenhouse gases and things like that than trucking. And again, I'm not blaming trucking or anything, but it's just the fact of the matter is that we are much more environmentally friendly. So when we're talking about some of the things that are going on, rail is a great way to choose it because it does not have such an impact on the environment.
High speed rail. We think about Amtrak and the push for 110 miles per hour on the St. Louis to Chicago corridor. But that being said, has high speed rail had any benefits for the freight railroads? At a minimum, I would figure the safety mechanisms tied to high speed rail and the fencing and the advancements as far as security equipment at some of these crossings.
Yeah, I think, we have made great investments in safety over the last couple decades, especially, even without investments in passenger rail. Positive train control, which makes sure that trains aren't running into each other, has been a great thing that's been implemented over the last couple decades. Knock on wood, and I know everybody has, high profile incidents that they see when it comes to train accidents, but we are one of the safest forms of transportation as well. We have very low injury rates, very low death rates when compared to trucking. And it is a very safe way to haul product and get your stuff moved. We work very closely with the passenger rail folks. Certainly Amtrak, Metra in the Chicago region when it comes to commuter rail. We're partners with passenger. My members' business is to haul the goods and make money and do that, but we also know we have a public service to provide passenger rail as well. So some of these upgrades, yeah, you're right. I mean, the upgrades that we've seen on the Chicago to St. Louis corridor, especially from a fencing perspective, especially from the quad gates, which are gates that come down, 4 gates that come down to make sure you can't get a car across, when there's a train coming, are really important. And those are all good advancements in safety and technology that allow us not just to run passenger safer, but certainly to run our freight train safer as well.
I have to think some of the savings are passed on to the consumer. And when you talked about being a cheaper form of moving product, and I would think in particular, maybe people don't realize how much of the food industry comes into play with the railroads, and the people don't know what's inside the trains a lot of times. If it doesn't have a car standing out or coal coming out of the top, they don't really know what's inside. They know cars are in there and everything else, but there are a lot of cars that are frozen on the inside, and a lot of food moving across the country.
Yeah, there's certainly food product, and certainly there's things that go into our entire food system that make food in this country. Actually, when you look at what we've seen from carloads, the number of carloads, trains weekly that go across the country, the last few months actually have seen a very robust grain movement across not just the U.S. but across North America, and that's because of some good harvests that have gone on, and also a real focus on getting agriculture items to market and so on. And so, there's the things that our industry touches that are involved with people's everyday life really run the gamut. Whether it's the food you eat, whether it's the bottle you pick up, whether it's your cars, whatever it is, our industry is involved in delivering that stuff at some point.
Well, I know you're a huge fan of history, and that's something close to your heart. And I can imagine that's been one of the benefits of the job is the history of the railroad. I mean, we wouldn't be the seat of shining sea success without the railroads, of course. And it is certainly the push west. You think about railroads, and to have Big Boy come through the area, the Union Pacific steam monster, that's got to be an exciting thing this weekend.
Well, it gets to really the love affair that people have with railroads, and I really see it in action pretty much every day. Whether it's something like Big Boy coming through Illinois, which came through a couple years ago, and Big Boy came through the northern part of the state a month ago, and now it's going to be through Springfield and Girard on Saturday. Or some of the other, CPKC Railroad brings their holiday train through Illinois every year, which is a really cool thing. I've seen BNSF bring their historic business cars through Illinois. It's one thing that I think our industry takes a lot of pride in is there's aspects of this industry that are new and cutting edge, and we're not your grandfather's railroad. We're not some dusty old transportation system. We're doing a lot of cool things, innovating a lot, but also we tremendously respect our heritage and our history. And so seeing Union Pacific, revitalize Big Boy and run that locomotive across the country is really cool. Or all the other things that our folks do. Every one of our 6 Class 1 members created not just one, but each of them created several locomotives schemed out for America 250. And that was really cool to see that the pride that our industry has taken in the 250th birthday of our country is really something else. And so you saw CSX bring their patriotic locomotive into Washington, D.C. You saw BNSF, President Trump got on BNSF's one of their locomotives and took it to the Teddy Roosevelt Museum that just opened in South Dakota. So, there's all sorts of cool stuff that goes on in this industry, and there's really nothing like it. Barges are the steamboat industry. I guess trucks are in a way to where have come from carts and horses, but you don't see a lot of those. But what you do see is a lot of historic locomotives and trains that still run the rails, which gives us really a great way to connect with people and a great way to tell the story of our industry.
As the son of a L&N turned Chessie turned CNO, maybe have those two backwards, turned CSX, turned Conrail.
CSX,
it ran the gamut, and the one thing I remember as a little kid, it's still a striking memory. And you mentioned that 250 celebration, the 1976 bicentennial trains. We used to have the big calendars in the house.
The Freedom Train.
Yeah. It's just, to me, it's a great, I have said about America 250 that the founders are absolutely the building block, but boy, I think celebrating other things that made America a success and the American way of life, and to be a moving celebration, not just a painting or a statue, it's one of the best things going for this celebration.
Yeah, Sean, I remember visiting the Freedom Train when it came through Peoria. When I was a kid, I would have been 9 years old when it came through Peoria, and I'll always remember that. My entire life, I'll always remember that. And so to be around for 250 and be able to experience some of this stuff now, as a middle-aged adult, is really pretty cool. And I like what you said. It's history that moves, and people get to see it in action, which is a lot of fun. And I think the pride that our employees take in being railroaders, and the pride that they show every day in their job, and the pride that they take in seeing these restored locomotives run around the country, I think really is something else. I mean, they have a legacy, and they work a legacy every day that they know is important to this nation, and that's really a cool thing in our industry, I got to say.
Well, we talk about, and I'm sure you're running low on time, but maybe just make a couple more points if you have time.
I've got time.
All right. So, let's see, 2033. Boy, when we think about history, too, I mean, the train has been such a part of it. And obviously, when you think about Abraham Lincoln going to Washington and coming back, sadly, after the assassination, the images of the train going across the country and people just finding out about it. I mean, the 24-hour news cycle was like the 2.5-week news cycle back then, and it's just an emotion-stirring thing. Even that underappreciated depot in Springfield where he left and came back. But the George H.W. Bush funeral train, I imagine, as someone who has been so invested in public service, that had to be an incredible emotional time machine moment, just watching it for you.
Yeah, so George H.W. Bush was the first president that I got to vote for. When I was in college, he always will hold a very special place for me. I think he was a wonderful man. I think he was a one-term president that I think could go down as maybe the greatest one-term president that we've ever had in the United States. And he was such a decent guy. And so, a couple things. One, when Union Pacific did a 4141, which now I haven't had the opportunity to visit his presidential museum, but that locomotive now sits at the presidential museum for H.W. Bush, which is really an amazing thing. And that's that's the kind of stuff that our industry does that I think is pretty cool. Making a 4141, UP having the 1616 Lincoln train that they brought through Springfield last year. I mean, that's these heritage fleets that these companies maintain. I think is really cool, and I think that's just an amazing thing about our industry is we honor that so much. I think H.W. Bush really. I had the opportunity. I just happened to be in Washington D.C. When he laid in state in the Capitol after he died, and I got up early. I got up for the first day, and it was packed, and so I got up really early and went to the Capitol, had the opportunity to pay my respects to him. But that, having someone like that as our president, I mean, I just, again, I think the world of him. I think the world of his family. And to see him honored through stuff like that, through people who know that of his importance by, I mean, not everybody gets a locomotive. Like seeing that is really pretty cool. And you're right. It meant a lot to me to see that, and certainly being in this industry now. One of these days I'll get to the Presidential Museum and be able to see that in person. It'll be awesome.
Have you been on Big Boy or any of the historic trains as a passenger? I was just going to ask that. I mean,
I've had the opportunity to. This is one of the things I really like about this job.
Oh, you know what? I'll go ahead. I'm going to start that over because I'm going to incorporate HW and flow into that.
Yeah. Okay.
Boy, I'm telling you, the neat thing, the expanded coverage, and I guess you could watch on the internet or anything else. When that train went through places, and I think a Big Boy. I don't think I'll ever have the chance again, but I wormed my way on a past trip from Pacific, Missouri to Sedalia. And being on the train was neat, but the neater thing was watching the people of Missouri. I don't care if it was a population center. There are all the hobbyists who were taking pictures in the bigger towns. But, I mean, the smallest towns in Missouri, they gathered around like in the 19th century, and that kind of reminded me of the visuals of the George H.W. Bush funeral train. That really has to be magical. I'm going to seat everybody once. That's cool, but seeing the way people react to it, you've been there, done that in these historic trains. How did that affect you?
Yeah, it's really something else, and I can't really think of another transportation system where you see people turn out like that. So I was up in northern Illinois in where did we go? Rochelle and Sterling, and then West Chicago when Big Boy came through a month or so ago. I think it was a Tuesday afternoon in Rochelle and Sterling, and I mean there were thousands of people that turned out in those two communities, and there for hours in advance from multiple states, just to see this locomotive come through. And I think we're going to see that again, when Big Boy comes to Springfield on Saturday. You're going to have thousands of people, in downtown Springfield because they want to see it. And I think but it's like you said, it's the people along the route. I mean, and it's not just Big Boy. It's all these historic trains, and there's a whole cadre of rail fans that are just watching trains on a daily basis, finding a certain locomotive and stuff like that. And that's such a fun part of our industry, the way the rail fans interact with the locomotives and the trains and stuff like that. I've had the opportunity to be in the cab of Big Boy when I was in Omaha a couple years ago. Got to pull the whistle, which is a really cool thing. And I've been on the Heritage Fleet in the cars as well. And it's a whole different experience. I was in Kansas City last summer, and CPKC has the Truman car where we standing on the back of the rail car holding the Dewey Defeats Truman newspaper. And being able to be on that same rail car, standing in that same spot, I mean, there's nothing like it in the world. And the history that these transportation devices represent is really something else. The last thing I'll just say on this, I would really urge people. We appreciate the people that have come out that love these trains and so on. We just really urge people to be safe. These tracks are dangerous places to be. Trains can go fast. You never quite know what's coming down the track, so it could be trains before or after. And so we really encourage people to stay safe, to stay away from the tracks. You can get plenty of photos, but please do not attempt to get right in front of the train or things like that, because that could be incredibly dangerous.
Oh, my word. I know it's frustrating for the folks over at UP, and they have taken some measures. But yeah, 25 feet, 20. You still get a pretty darn good view of 25 feet.
It's a big locomotive.
Yeah, it's not a Prius. Yeah,
yeah, right.
Not picking up Prius, just subcompact cars. Yeah, it's a monster.
Right.
Well, Tim, great talking to you again, and just again, folks, just I guess talking to the young people out there, there are great careers in the railroad business. I know some people are, and I almost forgot about the career aspect. They're just some people, and I'm like that a little bit. Just are not wired to go to the office 9 to 5 every day. Same chair, same desk, and they kind of like something beyond the routine.
Yeah. These are, the railroad industry, they're tough jobs, but they're rewarding and they're well paying. I mean, our average salary and benefits for railroaders in Illinois is about $140,000 a year. And, that's a good job. And I think as people look at, industries to get into and jobs they want to do, and I mean, this is a rewarding career that I would encourage people to take a look at.
Tim Butler, thank you so much, and all the best to the Illinois Railroad Association.
Thanks, Sean. I appreciate it.
All right, hope I didn't take too much of your time.
Nope, not at all.
I'll get you
I'll get you
the composite and